Amnesty International has harshly criticised Australia's treatment of refugees on the island of Nauru in the South Pacific. That's where those seeking asylum are detained for processing. The rights group accuses the Australian government of subjecting people to an elaborate and cruel system of abuse. Well, Amnesty's report says the way refugees are treated amounts to torture because of the mental anguish they suffer, in addition to the intentionally harmful nature of the system. The group also says people have been abused by those in positions of authority and by some locals. And almost all the people Amnesty spoke to, including young children, suffered from poor mental health. Well, for more on this, let's speak to Anna Shea. She's a researcher with Amnesty's refugee and migrants' rights groups and joins us from London. Anna, good to speak to you. So, first of all, the Australian government says that keeping asylum seekers offshore deters people smugglers. Surely you would welcome that as a move?
Yes, of course. This is an important issue you raise. It is Amnesty International's position that you cannot justify the severe abuse that amounts, in effect, to torture on the grounds that it might prevent other people from risking their lives through dangerous boat journeys. So there is absolutely no justification for the treatment that the men, women, and children on Nauru are currently suffering. There is no excuse.
And Anna, there's 10,000 people who actually live on Nauru and almost 1,000 asylum seekers there. Just how much is being spent to keep these people offshore and being processed by the Australian government?
Well, of course, the human cost of these systems is incalculable, but the financial cost we can calculate, and it has been estimated by the Australians' own National Audit Office at $573,000 per person per year. And that represents billions and billions of dollars over the last 3 years since this so-called offshore processing was begun.
And of course, Anna, there is a UN Convention on the treatment of asylum seekers and refugees. Australia is a member of the United Nations. Just what can be done to make sure that they live up to the rules of the international community?
Well, the solution to this acute crisis is simple. All the people who are currently on Nauru and Manus Island need to be brought to safety immediately. The situation, as you know, is very acute. These are men, women, and children in severe distress, and the only humane solution is for them to have the right to be brought to Australia. The Australian government is completely flaunting its obligations under the UN Refugee Convention, and it must be held to account.
And as we're talking, we are looking at pictures from a few months ago of protests in Australia. There is a movement in Australia to make sure these people are brought to the country, but what pressure can groups like Amnesty have on the Australian government to make sure that they live up to those agreements they made?
Well, we consistently urge countries around the world, including Australia, to live up to their international obligations. And we will be having meetings with the Australian authorities. We've provided them with a summary advance copy of our report. So we're going to be doing everything we can to ensure that when Australia signs up to an international treaty, like the International Refugee Convention or the Convention Against Torture, it fulfills those obligations.
Okay, Anna Shea there from Amnesty International in London. Thank you very much for joining us.